Hi, my name is Melanie Callaghan, and my research project was based off of social emotional learning and curriculum. So, the problem that students are facing where we would need to implement social and emotional curriculum is that every student faces different obstacles during the school day, like every day, throughout the day, as well as at home. Both neurotypical students as well as students with disabilities face similar obstacles. Some are bigger than others, but one obstacle that students often struggle with is social emotional learning. I wanted to pinpoint a little bit that, especially right now during COVID time with all the rules and regulations throughout the day, social distancing, online learning, feeling isolated, and the world just continuing to move on. I know personally with my students, they're not being taught which emotions they are feeling and when and how to handle each situation and emotion throughout the day. This curriculum can be taught in multiple different ways within the classroom. Based on all the different research that I found during this project, as well as different teaching styles that I have, or my colleagues have, or that you guys have, this curriculum is offered to educators across America to ensure their students' education ability to identify and cope with their emotions during situations. So the way I teach it might not be the way you teach it. It doesn't mean it's wrong, or right, but all educators can take this curriculum that's given to them and mold it to what would fit best within the classroom for each specific student. Social emotional learning curriculum teaches students how to regulate their emotions and identify what they are feeling during everyday situations. The first quote that I pulled from my paper that it was social emotional learning in schools is a fast growing field of research and practice that is aimed at teaching children and adolescents core social and emotional skills that is directly linked to their overall health and success in life. So the sooner that we teach it, it'll really benefit them in the future going forward. It For me, this gives the students the ability to communicate, but also teaching it early on gives them the repetition that they need and deserve. Throughout research, educators will be able to come together and utilize the most promising techniques overall being used in schools to support social emotional learning. Tongue twister. Um, they will be able to communicate through blogs and other research articles just like I found. And I know personally I'm going to take some things that I found here and use them in my classroom, and I definitely got a different viewpoint. What's most interesting to me is that every school has a different social emotional learning curriculum available. There's all different types of resources available through online, other educators, as well as your curriculum coordinator within your school. More so for nonprofit schools, such as the school that I previously worked at. It was a non-for-profit. It was strictly students with disabilities. I had a curriculum coordinator who was in charge of this curriculum, and she would send out each month different lessons to go with whatever theme that month was, and it would have different levels. So, like for my lower level guys, we would target more emotions and small social stories, where for my higher level guys, we were doing emotions within the community and emotions while purchasing. So that was a lot of fun. When I did sadly leave that job, I took this curriculum with me, the ones that I had, and I did implement it in my new school because I really enjoyed doing it the first time. With that being said, general education and special education, although they have different obstacles, they're still working on kind of the same thing. So, students on the autism spectrum often struggle with identifying emotions depending on where they fall on the spectrum. So my guys now can definitely tell me how they are feeling, where my previous job, my guys couldn't tell me how they were feeling at all. And it was just a communication aspect that we were working on throughout the day. So this was just another skill for their toolbox. where this curriculum might be a refresher or an extra for students who are not on the spectrum. This could potentially be a whole new lesson for students on the spectrum and almost like a first time experience, first time hearing specific words. It's crucial that teachers cater the curriculum to each specific student so they can gain as much information as possible. And my guys in special education might need this lesson more frequently, like once or twice, so they can grasp like the concept. The first time is just like an introduction. These lessons differentiate depending on age, grade level, race, and environment. And these skills could focus on social, emotional, as well as interpersonal skills. And these skills help with children and adolescents interpret other people's behavior independently in the future as well. So it's not just their own, it's everybody around them. They're able to take those skills and hopefully generalize it. One thing that I focused on in my paper was mindfulness. Mindfulness is described as an individual state of mind. It is the mental state achieved when focusing on one's awareness of the present moment. So I think SEL benefits both types of students, all types of students, but mindfulness as one of the techniques can really be utilized for stress relief, self-care, and overall improving classroom engagement. Students feel more confident, which ultimately gives them the skill they need for social emotional learning to be able to identify what they're feeling. Some of the other promising techniques that I found throughout my research was social emotional check-ins, future-focused prompts, social stories, and to model the cultivating self-awareness. For my guys on the spectrum, repetition and consistency, and they would really benefit from all of these being modeled, not just read off of a worksheet. Some of my guys like to watch the videos of how to handle situations. It almost creates like a routine for them and and they know the overall expectation. Other things that could be used are smartboard, hands-on experiences, positive actions, making choices, and good behavior games. Overall, real-life experiences and not just reading it from a book. Often, students on the spectrum struggle with social communication and behavior. Often, students on the spectrum receive a large amount of academic as well as behavior support in the school setting, and this could be a one-to-one. So something that I do every day are positive behavioral interventions and supports. So all of these interventions that I just listed could be used within the public school setting and not just private schools or non-for-profits. And I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Students on the spectrum as well as students in general education can benefit from these services. So these services put a plan into place to help students identify before they get to a point where they can't identify and we ultimately have a meltdown. So this keeps them on track to ensure their success, really. Some benefits are increase in peer relationships, school climate, the well-being of the children, as well as faculty productivity. If your students are doing better, you're doing better. So it almost motivates everybody once you have that fine line of communication of how I feel and how to handle certain situations. In conclusion, all individual needs are different, and all students come from a different background. Both students on the spectrum as well as general education would benefit from SEL curriculum. And the students they just need those tools. A lot of students aren't given those tools at home or at school previously, so it's our job as educators to provide them with those tools in order to succeed. I hope you get the chance one day to learn about social emotional learning curriculum, and thank you so much for listening.